Good morning, everybody. Okay, I want to go over, or good afternoon, depending upon, or good evening, depending upon when you're viewing this. But I wanted to go over some elements of this assignment. So let's go through and let me share my screen. Oops, cancel, close that out. Let's see here. Okay, so as I go into our course, I actually think I just went into the wrong course. Okay, as I go into our course, and under our modules. So you're going to see a number of different elements associated with this assignment. First and foremost, I want to go over the assignment sheet. You have a couple of samples. These two are professional samples. This is a sample from an admin 6020 student. Fantastic sample. And the accompany memo goes with that video. But to go to the assignment sheet, you are creating two elements for this assignment. Element one is you are generating or creating a PSA, a public service announcement. I have a tendency to like you to think about working with your place of employment or where you're planning on going with your place of employment. For example, the sample I posted of a former admin 6020 student and basically workplace etiquette. Um, and think about who you're trying to attract. That we know that the mode going to Tumen and Frawley, the speak up text, we know our mode of delivery is going to be a video of some sort. You can also do PowerPoint, but I'll let you know that videos are far more captivating for your audience. And so think about something in your workplace that has needed to be addressed or that is needed to be updated or addressed in a new and interesting way. And then think about who your audience is. And going back to the speak up video, or not, excuse me, not the speak up video, but the speak up text. And selecting your audience or knowing who your audience is. You know your employees. If you are an employee and you want to speak to management, you know who your management is. How will you best attract that audience and keep that audience? Once you've generated your PSA, remember your PSA really shouldn't exceed 2 minutes. I've seen phenomenal PSAs that were 2 minutes long. I've seen PSAs that were kind of duds at 2 minutes. I've seen fantastic PSAs that were 30 seconds long. So the choice is really up to you in terms of what is captivating, what is interesting. And then the second part of that video, or the second part of that assignment is where you're writing a memo, so it should be in your memo format, where you're discussing the elements of that PSA. And you should be thinking about who was your audience, who was your receiver, why did you select that audience, what about them was attractive to you, or what about them made them a viable candidate for discussion. And then what images did you use? Audio, visual. If you chose to record a video on your iPhone or your Android, why did you choose the background that you selected, the actors that you selected? If you opted to go with a PowerPoint with music, and why did you go with a PowerPoint? What did you think would be the most captivating element of a PowerPoint? The images that you selected, of all the billions of images you selected, why those images? In this area, be very specific and detailed in your analysis of these decisions. In terms of the language in your PSA, if you had written language, what were you trying to evoke with that written language? Um, and then finally, was it successful? Some things that I want you to consider. Let me go to the PowerPoint on this. Oh, takes me away. Let me escape out of here. So let's look at the AIDA model. First of all, how are you grabbing attention, your reader's attention? That interest, those central selling points, rational, emotional appeal, psychological selling points. The written portion of the module goes over this, but let's talk in brief. Central selling points, rational emotional appeals. We will often see PSAs that rely on either rational or emotional appeals to gain interest from your target market, target audience. Emotional appeals are far more utilized than rational. Those emotional appeals are all of those things that tap into our emotional side that get us to act, right? So I always say the most popular ones, the ones that automatically should come to our minds, those PSAs with animals, ASPCA and donate to animals. And what do they show us? They don't show us happy dogs that have been adopted, that are doing well, that are thriving in their new homes. No, they show us animals in cages. They cue up the Sarah McLachlan "I Will Remember You" song to really go at the heartstrings. The other one that we're used to seeing, St. Jude's Children's Hospital or UNICEF and starving children. And they show us children in distress. They do that for a very specific reason. It's rhetorical in nature. It makes us feel guilty. Is that bad? I don't know. It's always hard to see sick children. It's always hard to see starving children. It's always hard to see sick animals. And they appeal to our emotional side, our guilt side, and it gets us to donate. And that is a good thing because we look around at the opulence, even if we don't live an opulent lifestyle, even if we're like barely hanging on, we have so much more than people who are starving to death. We have social programs that help us. We have friends, family, we have food banks, we have all kinds of things that can ensure that we still get fed. We have church organizations, and we look at people in underdeveloped nations and we say, I have so much more than you, and I'm going to donate even if it's only $5. Right. And so those are emotional appeals. Those rational appeals are 9 out of 10 dentists tell us that we should do X, Y, or Z thing. That is a rational appeal. Insurance companies who say if you are undercovered, all of these things could happen to you. They kind of teeter the line between rational and emotional appeals. And so think about those psychological selling points, which is the next slide, which we'll talk about. Desire, the continuation of those psychological selling points, getting us to act as a viewer of that PSA, which then moves us nicely into action. Then finally, the next thing I want to go over are those things. We find out as much as we can about our audience. The Speak Up text talks about this. We went over this in the reading. But age, income, cultural, sexual orientation, interests, so many things go into the analysis of that audience. And so think about who is your audience for this assignment? How are you going to appeal to that audience? And that will lead you to the video decisions or the PowerPoint decisions that you make for the PSA itself. But then that will also streamline you and scaffold you beautifully into the elements of the written portion. Why did you choose the images, the language, the videos, excuse me, that you opted to utilize throughout your PSA? Remember, target market is broad, snowboarders 15 to 8 to 20 years of age. So that is that broad audience, whereas target audience is narrow. I always like to think of or think of it as a target market being an entire grocery store, whereas in target audience, is an aisle in that grocery store. So, snowboarders 15 to 20 years of age who live in Colorado would be an example of a target audience. If you're marketing to students, target market would be all university students. Target audience would be university students who attend California State University, San Bernardino. So it takes something broad and makes it even narrower. And when you're creating your PSA and then the subsequent memo, so if you went with your employees, so let's say, for example, you work for Chase Bank. So Chase Bank is your target market. It's all employees for Chase Bank. But your target audience, those employees who work in Southern California. Do you see how that takes it from broad and streamlines it to narrow? Because what I'm interested in Southern California may not be something that you're interested necessarily as interested in Chicago, Illinois. Okay. And then finally, the PSA and you. We've talked about this. It's in the assignment sheet. Overall purpose, who's your target market, target audience? What are the psychological selling points? Effective use of images, colors, music, actors. If you could change anything about your PSA or the written portion, what would you change? And then ultimately, was it effective? This is where these two areas are where you can talk about maybe you're not the best at video recording. Maybe you don't know how to edit a video. You would have pared it down. You would have made subtle elements. You would have added music in a different way. So this is your opportunity to kind of say, if you weren't as strong as you were hoping to be, these are the reasons why. Okay, I'm hoping that information helps you as you move forward on this next assignment. As usual, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. This should be a fun, I'm hoping, a somewhat fun assignment. Again, I highly recommend, especially for my admin students, that you tackle something that is workplace driven, because it's kind of fun in that element, and you can really think about who your target market is, who your target audience is, and if it's employees, how can you appeal to that group? All right, take care. I hope this was informational, and I will talk to you all later.